Hi there, this is Kenneth B and you're watching Blue Collar Guy. So, this is my Vtoman 1800X. It's been plugged into my apartment size refrigerator since 3 p.m. yesterday. So roughly now it is 8 a.m. in the morning the next day, and that's about 17 hours. Now if you look on my watt meter, it has this little number here that tells you the accumulated time in which the fridge was running. So even though the fridge, I've had this thing plugged in for 17 hours, the fridge has only really been running for 7 hours and 25 minutes because the watt meter records that. It records only the time the fridge was running. And it will say, if I go through my functions here, it'll say 0.888 kilowatt hours. Right now we're running at 111 volts at 60 hertz. We are running no amps right now because it's not on, and the low wattage is 3 watts and the high wattage is 751, and that is why you can't plug this particular model fridge into let's say the R600, because it will trip the overload. It will hang there a little bit too long on the high draw. So but this 1800X Vtoman has no problem dealing with that. So 17 hours is running my fridge. It still has 30% capacity. Now if you watch, I'm going to open the door and it went up to 35 watts. See, just to run the light. Okay, there's the door open, there's the door closed. When it kicks on, it draws about 140 watts of power, but then it cycles off. So if you're wondering that, so whenever you're going by these numbers here, they're not accurate when you're dealing with things with compressors. So you will always get more time than it will say here, as long as it's a fridge or a freezer plugged in, because they cycle on and off. They do not stay running. If they stayed running, then this number here would be fairly accurate. So if you were to plug in a microwave and run it for an hour straight, then yes, it will absolutely, because it's gauging, it's letting you know, and not just this unit, but other units, even like the EcoFlow and the All Powers. They're just gauging if you were to continue to run that many watts through your power station, that's how much time you'll have left. But they don't have the ability to calculate things like a fridge cycling on and off, because it doesn't know anything about your fridge. And that is why you get one of these. They're inexpensive, and they can help you figure out what size power station that you need. Now this is just with my fridge plugged in. I also have a small freezer, and if I was to have them both plugged in, they both will cycle on and off. So you're not gonna necessarily be doubling or having the time that your power station can run. I would say that it will probably be 40%. I'm just guessing, but I'm gonna do a test on that as well. But just to let you know, whenever you plug a fridge into a power station, as long as the power station is capable of running your appliance when the compressor kicks on, because they do draw a lot of load, then that time will be adjusted according to how often it cycles on and off. This all depends on the efficiency of your refrigerator. This is not a new refrigerator, and that's why I wanted to show this one, because this is the fridge you get when you go rent an apartment, and they don't go buy the most efficient fridges because they're not paying the power anyway, so you are. So you're just going to get your average run-of-the-mill you know, this is the cheapest fridge that they could find kind of deal. So if you live in, you know, New York City or Montreal or Toronto and you've rented an apartment, you're dealing with the fridge that the landlord supplied with you, and this, you know, and this is a real world test for that. So once again, I plugged this fridge in yesterday at 3 p.m. Right now it is 8 a.m. and I still have 30% battery capacity. Now, given the fact that most power outages in major cities are about 4 hours, okay, even if it was to be throughout the night, you would still be okay if you had this particular Vtoman plugged into your fridge. So I feel pretty safe knowing that I'm going to be able to continue to run my appliances and keep my food cold during a power outage, because more than likely the power will be restored before that, you know, I run out of power on this. This is just an experiment, you know. I don't have it plugged into the wall. See, there's nothing plugged into the wall, you know. This thing here, by the way, is for my Echo. So yes, this is the setup that I've chosen for my kitchen, because if I want to run my microwave or any other very powerful appliance, you're going to need something that can handle all that. Now the fridge, see, the fridge just kicked on. The fridge just kicked on. It went up to 156 watts. Okay. If I go over to here, and right there it says 146 on this side. So some of it will be through the inverter loss, and some of it is just an inaccuracy on the device calculating what the watt draw is. So the watt meter, this one is fairly accurate. I've done my homework on that, and the fridge is really only taking 135 watts. All right. Now, if you notice, this changed too. It went up a minute. So only when the power is being drawn does this record the time. So now if I go through my function, it says at 0.891 kilowatt hours, taking 110 volts at 60. We've got 1.33 amps, 1.32 amps of current. Not a lot of current, but we've got some. That's the low, and this is the high. So when that compressor initially kicks in, it's 751 watts, and you know, that is where you run into the issue. See, 123 watts. So it goes down as it starts to settle in. Now, it's saying here now, so it's doing its calculation. It's saying if you're running 137 watts, you got 30% battery left, you're going to be able to run this appliance for 3.1 hours. But that's not true. It's not true, because as soon as this cycles off again, that's going to change. So I've got more than 3 hours than what it's saying there. And that all depends on the efficiency of your appliance. If you're running a DC fridge, like one of those camping fridges, you could probably run those for about 4 days off of one of these. No problem at all. So if you're wondering which power station to get for your kitchen to run your fridges, this would be a good pick. Things I don't like about it is that when that exhaust fan kicks in, and it does from time to time, to keep the unit cool, it is very noisy. I would say it sounds like a hairdryer. But luckily, it only kicks on and off about, you know, once every, you know, it's gone after three minutes. You know, it'll kick on, and then 3 minutes later it shuts off. And as you can see, it's not kicking on right now. It only kicks on when the inverter starts to see some temperature. So as this fridge is running, you know, the inverter is going to get warm, and then the fan will kick on, and then the fan will kick off. So as soon as it cools it off, so it's not a problem. And that will also depend on how many watts. So if I had my freezer plugged in, it would probably cycle on and off more as well. But it's a quiet unit until that kicks on, and it's noisy. This is why I recommend this for the kitchen, because you don't want to have that in your bedroom. Absolutely. So The other units that I use in my living room have much quieter fans. So anyways, that's it on the Vtoman. Just wanted to give you an update on the how it can run a fridge and how long it can run a fridge. And right now we're running 17 hours and counting. I have no doubt that I'd probably hit the 24-hour mark, maybe even longer with this fridge, given the fact that there's still 29% left on the battery, which is still quite a bit, and it's going to cycle on and off. So the actual run time in 17 hours is really only 7.5 hours. So 10 hours of that 17 hours, the fridge, there was no draw. So could probably figure out a percentage on that, and based on that I could calculate how long my appliance could run for. So that's an interesting formula to maybe come up with, because at 7.5 hours, given the fact that it was 17 hours, you can get a calculation on that, and then you could probably predict your future usage for that appliance. So, but the only other thing to do is just run it down to nothing, like a lot of guys do, and see what happens. But I'm not going to have to do that for this video. Most power outages in Montreal, like I was saying, are about 4 hours. So you're going to have more than enough spare battery to keep this appliance and do some cooking and things like that. You'll be able to just live your life. You can get an expansion battery for this, which will double its capacity. So if you're really worried about it, you can get one, and it has a you can't see it, but there's a port on the front here, and it's another giant battery like the size of this, and the only thing you'll have is problem finding space to put it. So but yeah, you will double your capacity. And but this is a good unit. It's probably one of the best budget units you can get for dollar for dollar. You're not going to get too much better than this, and that's why I picked it. Very well built, high quality, and the inverter on it is overrated. Like it says 1800 watt inverter, it peaks at 3600 watts. So I have no issues running this. Your wall outlet is 1800 watts. Okay, just to give you an idea, 1800 watts, 15 amps, and this can compete with your wall outlet, and that should give you the confidence in running your appliances and things like that. So anyways, that's it for this. It's not an in-depth video on that. It does have pure sine wave. I did check that. So it's a good inverter. It's a good power station. So there you go. Thank you for watching. Bye.